I got an opportunity to go to New York, so I just like flipped on a dime and went to New York at Quad and went to Quad.
Okay.
Yeah, Quad Studios.
How'd you get that opportunity?
A good friend of mine that I grew up with in North Carolina, he was from New York, and I don't know if he called me or I called him, but randomly we got on the phone together. We hadn't talked in like 2 years. And he's like, what have you been up to? And I'm like, dude, I'm in this school just learning engineering. Like it's, I'm having such a good time. I'm like, doing really well. I'm going to be probably moving to Miami to work in a studio. And he's like, wow, that's so cool. He's like, you ever think about going to New York? We got mad studios in New York. I was like, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know anybody in New York. And he's like, motherfucker, you know me? And I was like, well, I didn't know you were up there anyway. He's like, I got a room you can take.
Welcome back to WSDG Booth Talk. I am honored here to have with me today Stu White, or Stuart White to his friends.
Stu's cool, I guess, yeah.
Stu is cool,
yeah.
And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Renowned engineer and music industry extraordinaire. Thanks for sitting in with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
I just kind of wanted to talk through with you, what you see from the industry, what's happening right now, a little bit how you got where you are, because maybe people want to follow in that path. And also, North Carolina represent.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I started engineering in like 2002.
Why?
Just because I was just a crazy big music fan my whole life. And I think, like a lot of engineers are failed musicians, like another failed musician engineer kind of thing. Like I took guitar lessons and like some band and saxophone, things like that. But I never really I wasn't that talented at it. And right around when I was like 21, I had a cousin who made a CD. I never met her. I met her when I was like 20 or 21. And she made a CD and she showed it to me when the first time I ever met her. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. You got your own CD? Because where I was from, nobody did stuff like that. There's no studios.
It was hard to do back then.
Yeah, and there was no studios. There was gear that you could just have in your house to make a record or whatever. So it was very rare to see that. And I looked in the liner notes of her CD, and I think she had some pictures of them in the studio making the record. And I saw the board and I saw pictures. And again, I had never seen stuff like that before that much. You might have a glimpse in a rap video on MTV. You might have seen some stuff like that. So I saw that console. And I was like, oh my God, man, it just drew me in. I want to learn everything that thing does, that looks so interesting and cool. And I was such a music fan. My parents got MTV when I was in 1985, I didn't come from a lot, we were middle class, whatever, basic, upbringing. But we got cable in 85, and then I lived on MTV all through the 80s and 90s.
When they played music. Right?
When they played music, and the music was just so highly well produced and whatnot. And then that was just kind of my, just trying to build an encyclopedic knowledge of different styles of music and whatnot. And then eventually I was here I am 21, 22, school didn't work out for me, so I was delivering pizzas for a living. I'm like, okay, is this it for me? I had pretty low expectations for my life, to be honest.
I have peaked.
Yeah, and I'm like, shit, I wonder if I could just do music. If I could just pay my rent doing music somehow, or doing engineering or something like that, because I'd learned what an engineer was, that would be amazing. And I told that to my buddy in the pizza shop, and he was like, oh, my cousin went to this school called Full Sail, and they teach you how to record records or go on tour.
Word of mouth, man.
Yeah. And so I was like, really? They have a school like that? And he's like, yeah, it's in Florida. I was like, no way. So I went on the website, and this is the days of earlier internet, 56K modem shit. And I log on and I look at their site, and their site was really nice for those days. For those days, the quality of their site was really good.
Professional.
So it just pulled me right in. I saw the pictures of the equipment, and I was like, dude, that's for me. I got to do it. So then from that moment forward, I've been obsessed with audio engineering and mixing.
So you went to Full Sail?
I went to Full Sail, yeah.
Right. What was next after? Where'd you springboard to?
I went to New York. I was going to go to Miami because my roommates were from Miami, and I was recording. They were rappers and producers, and I was their engineer in our apartment. So, and my friend Greg, AKA Who I Be, he taught me how to track vocals. As a rapper, he's like, oh, this is what you want to do, and do this, and don't put too much reverb on my vocal, and whatever. He taught me a lot of stuff, just how to track vocals. And then we would cut little songs and stuff, and I would do little mixes on them or whatever, and we'd track beats, learn about time code. So I did that, and then went to New York. I was going to go to Miami with him, but then I got an opportunity to go to New York, so I just like flipped on a dime and went to New York at Quad and went to Quad.
Okay.
Yeah, Quad Studios. Yeah.
How'd you get that opportunity?
Well, a good friend of mine that I grew up with in North Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. He was from New York, and he had moved back to New York by that point. And I don't know if he called me or I called him, but randomly we got on the phone together. We hadn't talked in like 2 years. And he's like, what have you been up to? And I'm like, dude, I'm in this school just learning engineering. Like it's, I'm having such a good time. I'm like, doing really well. I'm going to be probably moving to Miami to work in a studio. And he's like, wow, that's so cool. He's like, you ever think about going to New York? We got mad studios in New York. I was like, yeah, but I don't know anybody in New York. And he's like, you know me. And I was like, well, I didn't know you were up there anyway. And he's like, I got a room you can take. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's okay. I curse.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So anyway, so I moved into the bedroom of his apartment in Queens, in Flushing, Queens. And I lived in Flushing, Queens, and the last stop on the 7 train for like 6 years in New York. And I worked in Times Square at Quad Studios for 2 or 3 years as like an assistant/engineer. And then at the same time, I was working with like there was a lot of big acts happening at that time. Like that's how I met Alicia Keys. Worked on Jay-Z Blueprint 2 as an assistant. Did a lot of stuff like that. It just walked right
in. Through Quad, right?
Yeah, all through Quad. Yeah. And then I worked for Alicia for like 6 years. I got 4 or 5 years or whatever. And then Mincieli, Alicia's engineer, she built Jungle City Studios. And that's how I got with you guys. Right around that time when we built Oven Studios, or Ann built Oven Studios with Alicia, WSDG did all the design in the studio, and I think that's how we met, right?
Yeah.
Right around that time.
That's the first time we ran into
05, right?
Yeah, 05,
yeah.
06, and then Jungle in the City was 2012.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Something like that, and then Oven Manhattan.
Yeah, and Oven Manhattan. Yeah, so I got to watch you guys build a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
How long you been out on the West Coast?
I moved here in 2016. Yeah, right after Lemonade came out. I moved out here.
How would you, if somebody is asking you, like, I want that Stu White sound, how would you characterize that?
Well, I mean, like all good engineers, we'll develop a sound eventually, but in a way, it's like it's about the artist, like it's not about us imparting a sound on anything. It's about figuring out what the artist needs and using your taste and your talents to like get them to their end goal. I try not to think about me having a sound other than the fact of just, being able to work on different types of genre music at a high level,
How do you put your artists at ease in the studio?
You just got to be a self-aware person, I think. Some days people might be in a chatty mood. Some days they might be in a stressed mood. And, and it's just, you just got to be able to pick up on people's cues and, like, know when to, be quiet and just focus on being fast on Pro Tools. Or some days, chat in the room, but, like, don't dominate the conversation. I don't know. Just, like, let them lead, Make sure they know that, it feels like they're the boss because they are the boss. Right. You're there for a reason, and just not, just to be self-aware and helpful.
It seems in engineering that speed is often one of the most critical aspects of your job, right? Like
definitely, yeah.
Arriving most quickly at a place where they can be as transparent as possible about getting their art recorded.
Yeah, definitely. Being speed, and there's different types of speed. There's like, there's editing speed when you have the idea and you're editing something that you're trying to do or whatever, and then there's speed when they're trying to communicate ideas to you while you're recording something, while you're trying to mix it, and while you're, you're trying to, like, one part of your brain's like trying to mix the record and like blend. Okay, I need to put reverb on that. I need to cut that. I need to filter that. Turn that down. Turn that up. I need to be able to make another group for those vocals when they start doing harmonies. And then at the same time, you got to be thinking about that and like listening to what their cues are as far as what they want to do, or punch that line, next part, da 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 da, and just, I don't know. So there's like different types of speed, I guess. Sometimes you can be really fast and your hands don't really move that quick. You're just working efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like knowing what to do trims off so much of the time.
Oh yeah, it just, like you can be like clicking and clocking on the keyboard really fast, and sometimes, yes, you need to be doing that to get the thing to do what you want it to do. But sometimes it's just understanding really quickly what they want to do, where you just go, boom. Okay, that's what you want.
Right.
Okay.
Reading between the lines.
Yeah. And it just takes
Divining.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to being helpful and self-aware and like.
And experienced.
Experience,
right?
lots of, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure
somebody.
that experience at Quad, right? High pressure, learning everything you could, soaking it all in, kind of set the stage for, I'm sure you learned a lot of lessons at Quad, right?
Yeah,
High pressure.
The Quad was great for that. And I did a lot of sessions early on. Like I got my internship there, and then within a week I was assisting because they needed people to assist. They
showed up to work, so you were there.
And Quad was, I don't know exactly how it is now, but back then there was no mandatory, like you have to intern for 6 months or a year or whatever. It's like they would just throw you right in the fire if they thought you could handle it. And they thought I could handle it. And I got thrown right into the fire, and I loved every second of it. And I just never wanted to leave. I would finish a 12-hour session, and then they would put me on another one just because I was like, give me another one. I'm ready. I don't want to go. And I would just never leave, It's like 20-some years old, just really hungry and tireless. And yeah, I would, a lot of times I would be engineering stuff right off the bat, like within the first few weeks or months, because there would be like COD cash sessions at night where dudes would just call up at like midnight and book a session and show up, and they didn't have a record contract or nothing, but they just like want to cut vocals and track beats and
on like an hourly basis.
Yeah. Just like, how much is a Triton? Okay. How much is an MPC? Okay, here you go. Like how much, I charge this. And they just like put the cash on the table, and then you just do the session like that. And I did a lot of those in the beginning, and it was good because you get to like, develop before you get in the room with the superstars, that are, way less forgiving on mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we just sort of worked together on a new project for Sony Music Publishing.
Yep.
Where you were sort of the client in terms of you were the one telling us what the rooms wanted, what kind of gear, how you wanted them set up.
Right. Yeah. Sony Music Publishing. Big John Platt, he's a good friend. One day I think I just suggested to him, I was like, hey, you're building a studio. I was like, if you want me to take a glance at the gear list and make sure you get like gear that every like engineers actually need, and like, because sometimes the budgets get spent on stuff that you might not need or whatever, like far as like people not knowing what engineers want exactly, or they get consoles. And I decided to go with a console-less studio because most people are in the box nowadays, or they sum, if anything, so we could save a lot of money on consoles and things. And I think I said something about like that, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll put you on the email, so he just put me on the email right then. And then like it was basically like me just picking the gear and just kind of looking at the floor plan that y'all did, just to make sure that it would like be as private as possible for VIP artists and stuff, because like having a private bathroom, but like, which is what you did for Alicia's studio, and Jungle and studio, having the private bathroom for the artist, that's only their bathroom.
Have your own world.
Like little things like that go a long way, or having the ability to like get from their car into the studio without anybody knowing they're there or seeing them or whatever. Little things like that is what I contributed, and then picking the equipment. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the philosophy behind what gear you chose?
Yeah, it's just for that particular studio, it's a pop-based studio, and I didn't want it to be. I wanted to have good equipment that you can use on anything. So I'm a firm believer, like, it's as much as I love gear and trying new gear and playing with gear, I'd rather like have a bunch of rooms that are exactly the same, because one day you're in studio, because when you have 6 rooms in a place, because this place has 6 rooms, you're in your studio A one day, and then B the other day, and C the next day, and you want to be consistent. So just put all the same gear in the studios, which and just put good stuff that you can use on anything. So Neve mic pre's, API mic pre's, 1176 compressors, Tube Tech compressor, stuff like that. You can
highly
use
flexible.
On anything. Yeah, you can use that on anything. That's what everybody likes to use. And And granted, if you want to rent something esoteric, go for it, or if you want to bring something from home that's esoteric, you can. But like as far as just the baseline that's in the room, it's more about speed and efficiency than like having rooms that don't match up and having all the plugins being like those computers at that studio have every plugin that I use on my rigs would be, and just so like when we work there, I can just load up on their systems and I don't need to worry about not having plugins and stuff like that. So it's just a more modern approach to me building a studio.
Is that the same approach you might take to your own studio?
Yeah, my studio at home, I mix in the box. I have outboard gear, but I use it. If I use it, I'll print it and put it back in. Just because I'm totally cool with the sound mixing in the box. And I think it's more about like speed, in that way, and just like working that way. So my studio I put more emphasis in the speakers in my studio. So like, Augsburgers, PAD Augsburgers, and PMCs I'm working with now, and Neumanns. And so I focus more on just like having the room sounding good and tuning it right and all that kind of stuff. And then like less importance on the gear and more on acoustics. And speed.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for stopping by. Really appreciate having you.
Yeah,
Stu White,
my pleasure.
renowned engineer. Thank you so much.